Why do we remain in relationships that are no longer working or no longer aligning with ourselves, our needs, and our desires? So in this video, I will share common reasons that show up in my work with clients who are struggling in their relationships. So as I go through these common reasons, you will notice that all of them are actually based in fear. And by working with fear and by overcoming certain fears, a lot of things can actually shift in our personal life. So number one thing, massive fear for women is that belief that you're going to end up alone. So being afraid of being alone. And even those women who very loudly say that they don't need anyone in their life, that they are fine on their own, and especially they don't need a man that comes into their life, are mortified subconsciously by ending up alone. And personally, I don't wish anyone to end up alone because it's super hard. The second big fear that comes up is that fear of the unknown. What's gonna happen if I leave this relationship? The unknown is a fundamental fear. So whether it comes from a relationship or in any other aspect, we tend to fear what's unknown. We tend to fear of what's coming. And our imagination is very good with creating all kinds of scenarios, especially because your subconscious mind, part of it is actually responsible for keeping you alive, right? And the great unknown is scary because could possibly be dangerous. It's that limbic brain that is saying to you, ooh, stay where you are, because the unknown, whether it's good or bad, it's still the unknown, right? It could go both ways. But that fear will keep you, or will tend to keep you in relationships that are no longer working. Just because currently you can't even imagine that a good outcome is actually possible. Because your mind, again, will create those scenarios that are actually scary. So you are still stuck in that comfort of uncomfort, if that makes sense. I also noticed one common thing that keeps on showing up is that belief that this is the relationship that I deserve. So whatever is going on in that relationship, and sometimes it is abusive relationship, and there is a belief that somehow you deserve it. Somehow you deserve to be mistreated. Somehow you are deserving all kind of shitty things happening to you. So if we dig deeper into that belief, how come you believe that you deserve this kind of treatment? We find another layer that basically shows you that this kind of relationship or this kind of dynamic was modeled for you in your upbringing, right? In the situations that you experienced when you were a kid. And now there is that twisted belief that this is how relationships are and this is what I deserve. And again, even going deeper, we find that this dynamic or this belief is actually driven by guilt, a kind of internalized blame and shame that we carry, and then we kind of projected into our adult relationships. And when we receive that mistreatment, it actually feels like home. That this is how it's always been, and this is how relationships are. And that keeps you in the relationship that is not aligned with who you really are, and it is based on fear again. Another very common behavior that keeps you stuck in unfulfilled relationships is waiting for another person to change. And also that includes minimizing the actual current problems that you are experiencing in this relationship. Minimize the problem. Oh, that's not so bad. Actually, he didn't mean it. And so it goes. But at the same time, you are also subconsciously wishing and hoping and waiting for that person just wake up different one day. What are the chances that it's actually going to happen? Not being honest with yourself, because that's what the waiting is all about. You are not assessing the situation or your relationship in full honesty. You are lying to yourself, actually, that this is not so bad and better days are coming. Yeah. And another thing why so many women are actually stuck in unfulfilling, not working, not aligned relationships is because of their kind heart. Okay? And that, again, is rooted in the fear that you might hurt another person if you want to leave this relationship, or somehow it is modeled into you that this other adult cannot take care of themselves, because if you leave them, they're going to be hurt and they're going to do something, right? Maybe perhaps they're even telling you this, which is another realm of kind of control and abuse and manipulation, when somebody says, well, if you leave me, I'll do this and this to myself, or I'll do that and that to you or someone else. So that also includes the actual threat. I'm not talking about this here, but it's that kind of fundamental feminine thing that we don't want to hurt anyone. That's not our intention. But that will keep you from perhaps having a better relationship in your life, because you are so afraid to hurt this person, when in fact they are adults and they can deal with their own disappointment, right? And another thing that also kind of ties into that, again, it's that belief that somehow you failed if relationship ended. Okay? So again, it is fear. It is fear of you will be judged because you ended that relationship, perhaps by common friends or parents or whatever, because you failed, because there is that idea that, you know, no matter how, through thick and thin, we just continue in this relationship, which clearly is not working, clearly is making you miserable, but there is that kind of failure attached to it. Well, if I end it, or if that relationship somehow ended, that is my fault. That means I failed. I think you are failing yourself more if you are staying in a situation or staying in a relationship that really doesn't serve you anymore and really makes you feel that you are not yourself anymore. So you are failing you. So I hope what I shared today brings some clarity to you if you are in that situation where you are staying a bit too long in a relationship, it no longer feels aligned, it no longer feels good to be in. And by examining these fears, see if anything resonates with you. Because once you understand the reasons and root cause of these particular fears, it might be easier for you to actually shift them, okay? And if you need help in any way, you know where to find me.